Hello and welcome to this week's edition of iTorah. You know, when it comes to the Parsha, comes to Torah generally, we always try to take a lesson. Look at the giants of our past and see how they acted in particular circumstances and try to act in the same way. However, the Parshiot which we are currently discussing, which is last week's Parsha, which is a Parsha Bahalotcha, this week, which is a Parsha Shlach, next week, the Parsha of Korach, they have a different kind of lesson. They teach us more about what we shouldn't be doing than what we should be doing. Let me explain this by means of a short story. This is Yidel, a little Jew who finds a new dog. And of course, as soon as he finds his dog, the first thing he wants to do is to train it up. His neighbor, Yankel, comes along and he says, Yankel, I want to really show you what my dog can do. So he picks up a stick and throws its stick. The dog, instead of chasing after the stick, sits down, crouches, and starts whining. They listen carefully to what the dog says, and they hear, oh, that kennel master, it's not fit for a cat. And the food you give me, I wouldn't give it to goldfish. And you know what happened to my girlfriend? She left me yesterday. So the friend says to him, he says, listen, you told me you taught this dog a heap of tricks. What's going on? He says, my hintala, my dog, thought I said kvetch. Not fetch, but kvetch. Well, Kevetching seems to be a Jewish pastime. You know, as we're in the mood of telling stories, there's another one which goes along with this as well. An immigrant from Russia gets off the plane, sees the land of Israel, and they go over to him, they say, listen, you've come from Russia. How was life like in Russia? How was the food? The food in Russia? Can't complain. How was your apartment? My apartment in Russia? Can't complain. How was your work? Work in Russia? Can't complain about that either. He says, if everything was so good in Russia, so why'd you come to Israel? He says, because here I can complain. This, unfortunately, is a Jewish trait. No matter how good things are, we know how to kvetch. We know how to complain. And this is exactly what we found over the last few weeks in the Torah. The Jews came out of Egypt. In Egypt, they justifiably complained. They came out of Egypt, they were given the manna. The manna didn't taste good enough. What happened to all the meat we had in Egypt, as if they had meat in Egypt? The fish we had in Egypt, as if they had fish in Egypt. God gives them the Torah. They run away from Mount Sinai. Oh, noch a mitzvah. We better get out of here. Before we know it, there'll be, instead of 630 mitzvot, there'll be 1,230 mitzvot. This week, they're told they're coming to the land of Israel. No sooner they get in, you know that land of Israel, you said it was so good, there are giants there. You seen the population? Impossible to conquer. Next week, Parshat Korach, again they're tiny, again they're Kevetching. They don't like Moses' leadership for this reason, they don't like Aaron's leadership for that reason. Kevetching without any end. And therefore, the true lessons of the Parshat we're in now is that if you want to kvetch gesundheit, kvetch in good health. But remember where it'll lead you. It'll lead you to wandering around the wilderness for 40 years. So what should be our attitude? A Jew should think that no matter what his situation, no matter what his circumstances, he has the ability to overcome and make the very most of them. Where he is now is where he is meant to be. Where he is now is his challenge. When I spoke about this in Shul, I mentioned something that we've been studying in our course, our recent JLI course, which is Beyond Never Again, spiritual episodes during the Holocaust and its aftermath. We read about a certain rabbi, one of the last rabbis of Lithuania, one of the only ones to survive. During the war, he lost his wife, his 3 daughters, in totally tragic circumstances. After the war, shortly afterwards, he wrote a short paper. It was called Echa Ayeka. Allow me to explain. Echa in Hebrew is the Book of Lamentations, written by Jeremiah. In the Book of Lamentations, Jeremiah bemoans the destruction of the temple. It's as if he says, Echa, God, where were you? How could you have allowed this to occur? Echa. There's another word in Hebrew, it's Ayeka. When God first spoke to Adam, he said to him, Vayomer Elokim el Adam Ayeka, where are you? What purpose are you fulfilling in your life? How are you rising to life's challenges? And so this rabbi, who had lost everything which was precious to him, not only his colleagues, as I said, he was one of the only remaining rabbis of Lithuania, but his wife, his 3 children. He never again had children. But he writes a short article after the Holocaust in which he says, Echa Ayeka. It's not a matter of us asking, where is God? It's rather us taking that question and turning it upon ourselves and asking ourselves, where are we? What are we going to do? How are we going to make the most of the circumstance that we find ourselves in now? And so he devoted the rest of his life, although he never again could have children, to spreading Yiddishkeit, to spreading Judaism, continue his teaching. The very famous psychologist Viktor Frankl said it this way: it's not for a person to ask what the meaning of life is. Rather, it's life that asks the person, what meaning are you giving to your life? Which is a kind of a secular version of Echa Ayeka. It's not, where is God? The question's a good question, but it's not for us to answer that. The question that we have to answer, the question which is asked of us is, where are you? Life demands of us to give an accounting of our lives. So let's cut the Kevetching, let's stop the moaning, and let's get on with living and giving meaning to our lives. Shabbat Shalom.